I'm pissed off because this whole Brexit thing makes no fucking sense. When I grew up, the world was very simple. You were either in the Jewish community or out. You were in the gay community or out. You were in the group of intelligent, educated, successful people or out. You were in the groups of people who call themselves vegetarians or out. It was very simple. But then as I grew up, the reality is that I was in the group of geeks and nerdy kids, and I was in the group of kids who cause trouble and are always in creating problems. I was in the group of people who were healthy and eating well and exercising, and I was in the group of people who were smoking weed and drinking and partying and having a great time. And I was in the group of people who were the communist socialists who wanted to change the world, and I was in the group of people who wanted to build companies and technology and big businesses. And I was in the group of straight people and in the group of gay people. And then I was in the group of Europeans. And then when I moved to the UK, I was in the group of English people. And with the time, it became very clear for me that that shitty little world of boxes where you're in a box or you're in another box is so retarded. It's like the Middle Ages for identity. And with the Brexit conversation, from the beginning, I just had a dislike for that thing. It was just like, what the fuck are we talking about? What is going on? And people got, obviously very emotional. And I saw people I love saying that their heart was being broken. And, and so it affected me. And I got involved in some ways in the conversation. And I started getting deeper into what's going on. But the deeper I got, the more alien I felt to the conversation. And the reason the reason I'm pissed off is because it took me so long to understand and to realize why I felt so alien with that conversation and why that conversation to me makes no fucking sense. Because there's no in or out of Europe. That whole in or out is the same thing as vegetarians saying that you're either vegetarian or a meat eater, which is bullshit because every meat eater is a vegetarian when they're not eating meat. And that's like saying you either have to be straight or gay and you can't be bisexual. That's like saying that you can't, make money and do good. You can't be healthy and enjoy wine and smoke and whatever else it is. It's such a retarded world in which you're either in or out. What the fuck is that for a question? How can you even be in or out of Europe? I mean, okay, you're gonna be in or out of part of a small little convention thing, but there's trade agreements, there's people traveling, there's so much happening. It's not like England can just block itself and actually really be out of Europe and push the country further out so that they're in the middle of the Atlantic. There's no logic to this. And I know that, okay, there is some consequences and, I'm not sort of denying that. And I'm not saying that the political decision of being in or out of the European Union doesn't have an impact and that, it's not something we should take seriously. But what pisses me off is that I got dragged in a conversation that to me can only lead to bad consequences. Because the question of in or out can only lead to a bad consequence. Because it's the wrong question. The question is not about whether we want to be in Europe or out of Europe. The question is what do we want to create here? The question is how do we integrate the two of them? How do we integrate being in Europe and being out of Europe? How do we integrate being part of a collective and being a country that's individual? How do we integrate these opposites? How do we integrate having immigrants and having people who were born in the country? How do we integrate being tolerant and open while maintaining a system that exists? How do we integrate having rules that come from the outside with rules that we create from the inside? How do we integrate a new way of doing politics and an old way of doing politics? How do we integrate young people and old people in the conversation? And so now that the political decision has been taken, and no matter what happens, personally, what I would love is to see the conversation move towards this, which is how do we integrate these opposites rather than being stuck with the idea that you have to be in or out. And I would suggest that this is something you start practicing right away now in your life, and not just about the politics in the country, because what's happening on the outside is very easy to say, oh, well, fuck that. Where in your life, find one place, take literally 2 minutes, put your phone down, you put a timer for 2 minutes, and find as many places in your life in which you feel that you have to be in or out. And for each of these things that you feel you have to be in or out, explore how you can integrate them. And if you struggle with that process, or if you want help in that process, send me a private message, make a comment to this video, and I will help you. Because what pisses you off about the in or out conversation as a political thing, I am convinced is the same thing that pissed me off about that conversation, which is feeling dragged into a conversation that is destructive, that makes no fucking sense, and that actually it doesn't actually create a constructive solution. So here it is. This is my little rant. And so what I'm doing here myself, and the reason I made this video, is to integrate the being pissed off at myself for not seeing this, and being open to talk about it and see what we can create forward. Are you in or are you out of this conversation?